Hi, my name is Darlene Magdalinsky, and my diet partner is Holly Savini, and our topic is on domestic violence. Our client is going to be Jane, who is 25 years old. She's living currently with her abuser. He is mentally, physically, emotionally, and psychologically abusive to her, and currently they have two children together.
So the impacts that we will be talking about in our role play scenario are the emotional, physical, psychological, and social impacts of a domestic violence situation. Some of the impacts that we will talk about are troubles with trust, troubles with flashbacks, triggers, and physical harm, anxiety or the symptoms of PTSD, as well as isolation. So as we continue, you guys will see our role play, and we thank you so much for watching.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Jane. How are you today?
I'm okay.
Okay, good. Um, I know that we said that we was going to pick up where we left off at during our last session, and I know during our last session you was talking about you was having some trust issues. You want to talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I feel like I really can't trust my husband, and it's making me doubt whether I can trust anyone at this point.
Now, do you want to expand a little bit on that and tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that?
So I just, he was someone that I really love, still
Hmm.
do, and loved and put all of my trust into, and because he's broken my trust over and over again and hurt me in the way that he has, I just can't imagine putting myself out there and trusting anyone again. And I don't know how I would do that.
Well, I have some recommendations for you. Um, One of the things I would suggest is that possibly what you can do is to go around people that you trust to begin with, because obviously you can start building it that way. Also, to build trust, we have to take risk. So know that when you do this, you're taking a risk, and that's okay to take risk. Also, I would like to suggest for you to start off slowly. Don't jump in heading first. Just go slow. Don't go fast at a fast pace, okay? Because I don't want you to get hurt in any way, form, or fashion. And then also, I want you to do it in small increments. Do you understand what I mean by small increments? So just
Um,
small. I'm
Instead of
sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I small increments instead of just kind of diving headfirst into like a new relationship with someone.
Yeah, like don't, like I said, when I say small increments, do it in small sizes. So just give a little bit of information. Don't give it in a whole bunch of information. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that makes a lot of sense, and it makes it um, kind of easier to think about that way, less overwhelming.
And then how does that feel with you taking those recommendations and trying that?
I think that I can definitely do that,
Okay.
especially thinking about it in small steps.
Okay. Good. Also, you talked to me about your husband being physically abusive to you, and that you were dealing with some triggers and some flashbacks. Talk to me a little bit about that as well. I'm a little bit concerned with that.
Yeah, so I am still in the home with my husband. I know that we've talked about very briefly maybe doing something or leaving, which I'd like to continue that conversation, but he's still been hurting me. I would say that in the past 3 days he hasn't been physical, but he raises his voice, and that has been really triggering. When he raises his voice, I kind of get panicky because I think about, or I flash back to the other times when it started with him raising his voice and escalated to him pulling a gun on me or strangling me, and so it's been really hard.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you're really dealing with all of those issues. It's so much to take in. And what's important to me is that safety is first. You do understand that, right?
Yeah,
And I'm sorry.
I said yeah.
Okay. One of the things that, if you can take my suggestion with that, is, when it comes to someone physically abusing you, I think the first thing, that I try to tell the client is to try to get to a safe place, whether that be, and not tell them, but recommend it to them that they, go to maybe a shelter, maybe someone like a family member's house, a friend. Do you have somewhere safe where you think that you can go at?
I could probably go to my mom's house.
Okay. Well, that's something that you can consider. Also, my concern, especially with him hitting you, picking you up by the neck, and throwing you to the floor. I would, also recommend, so that make sure you don't have any broken bones and you're just not sure it's something sprained. I would, also suggest that you also go to the doctor, and then that I am also here to offer you support as well. You do understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted to add as far as with the trust issues or the physical that you wanted to expand on?
Um, I don't know. I think it's just been a really tough situation, and I'm still having trouble even trusting that I can leave, that if I were to go to my mom, that she would help me.
Hmm. So then, if you're having trust issues with thinking that your mom would help you, then what I would recommend is that you go to a place like a domestic violence shelter. And if you need me to offer to give them a phone call to try to get you there, I'm more than willing to do that, so that you as well as the two girls can be in a safe place. How does that sound?
That would sound a lot better.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll meet on next week to continue this session. And if you have any other questions before then, you know that you can reach out to me, okay?
Thank you so much.
Do you have any other questions or concerns for me?
Not today.
Okay. Talk with you next week.
Talk with you next week.
All right.
Hi, Jane. I just wanted to kind of pick up where we left off last week. I know that had been a pretty heavy session. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. How have you been feeling this week so far?
Oh my gosh, I've been really like overwhelmed, like with anxiety. My husband, all he does is holler and scream, and he has OCD. So my anxiety level has just been to the roof. Any loud noise just really gets on my nerve. It's just really bad, my anxiety.
Okay. And would you say that like loud noises or your husband screaming is kind of a trigger for you?
Yes, it's a really bad trigger for me. I mean, I even have like flashbacks like with it. Like I said, he hollers all day. He complains. He's a malcontent. And I get tired of it. He's a guy that he was in the military. So he expects for me and the kids to be militant. He just runs our household like, everybody has to be at attention. And it just makes my nerves so bad. It's like, I don't know what to do.
Sure.
It's
So,
gotten even to the point to where, like, when I want to go for drives, I'm having panic attacks. My anxiety, like I said, is just so bad. I have to stop and pull over and take breathers.
okay. Yeah, that sounds like it's been really tough. Um, have you ever kind of heard about why we might get anxious before?
I'm sorry.
Has anyone ever explained to you like why someone gets anxious, or do you know why you get anxious?
No, I haven't
So,
heard of it.
our anxiety is linked to our fight, flight, or freeze center, which is in our amygdala. So it's in the center of your brain here. And whenever we get kind of triggered or anxious or scared, that sense is turned on and it makes us scared or really anxious in the moment. It's ultimately turned on in order to help us. So some animals in the wild kingdom might run away or might fight back or might freeze in order to help themselves. So their amygdala is triggered. So when we're feeling anxious, it's kind of very similar to our fight, flight, or freeze center being triggered and making us anxious. The problem is when we are kind of trying to do things like driving or do our everyday tasks and our anxiety is constantly triggering, making it unable for us to do that. And I know that you've experienced some abuse from your husband, and so it makes sense that when you hear his voice, or when you can be triggered by him, that anxiety ultimately is also triggered, making it harder for you to be able to do things that you need to get done. I know
Yeah,
that
it's very overwhelming.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I was just saying it's overwhelming. I was agreeing with you.
Okay. Um, so have you ever learned about grounding techniques?
No, I haven't.
So a grounding technique is something that connects to your senses and kind of connects you to the moment, or grounds you to the moment. So when we're feeling really anxious or really scared, we can use something like this to help kind of calm us down. Something common that people use is counting the objects in the room that relate to their senses. So you could count one object that you smell, one object that you, or thing that you hear, one object that you see, one thing that you feel. And ultimately, if you're concentrating on that, it helps you kind of calm down and get you out of that anxious moment, so that we're not panicking or have an anxiety attack, which is the ultimate
Right.
kind of end that you don't want to happen. Is that something
Well,
that
I'm
you...
gonna try that.
Okay. So I know that anxiety has
Yeah.
been a big problem, and that sounds like it's
Yeah.
been really challenging for you. How's everything else been?
I mean, also I've been dealing with like some isolation. And I've been dealing with the isolation because of the him putting like guns and stuff to my head and things like that. And so like when family come over and stuff like that, you know, I don't even want them to come around, or like when he's hitting me and things like that, I don't want them to see like some of the bruises that I have on me. So I'll isolate, you know, in the house, or I'll wear shades and things like that. I just don't want to be around anyone because I'll just shut down.
Sure. Um, and I think that isolation can be really linked to our trust. So if your trust has been broken, then it makes sense that you don't want to be around people that could do it again, or in your case, people that could kind of point out the challenges that you've been going through. So point out the bruising or anything like that, and that's ultimately a sad, lonely place to be.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
very bad place.
are there people that you feel comfortable with, that you can, in those times when you don't want to be around anyone else, that you could kind of maybe spend time with, that wouldn't be as um maybe judgmental?
Like with my family, some friends, and I love to go to church.
That's
So my
great.
church family.
That sounds like you do have a pretty strong support system then, with your family and with your church. And
Yes, I do.
with rebuilding the trust and rebuilding that ability to kind of get out of isolation, it can be really important to, again, surround yourself with people that you trust. I know that we did
Okay.
talk about trust a little bit last week, um, but I think that it's really important to sometimes fight that urge to be alone, but at the same time, it's really normal to want to kind of spend time by yourself, especially when you're going through such a hard time.
Okay. That sounds like a plan. I would do that. I really appreciate you offering me that advice.
Of course. So, again, I know that we've had a pretty tough session, and I know we've talked about a couple things that you can try to implement and try to do, such as grounding techniques or surrounding yourself by people that you support. Does it sound good that you kind of try to do those things within this next couple weeks before we meet?
Yes, I could do that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for meeting with me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.